To discuss reproductive physiology, and the first hormone we're going to discuss is estrogen. The source of estrogen is ovary that produces 17 beta estradiol, placenta that produces estriol, and adipose tissue that produces estrone via aromatization. The potency is such that estradiol that is produced by ovaries is stronger than estrone that is produced from adipose tissue, and estrone is stronger than estriol that is produced by the placenta. The function is development of genitalia and breast, female fat distribution, growth of follicle, endometrial proliferation, and increased in myometrial excitability. Myometrium is the layer of middle layer of uterus that contains the muscular part. Upregulation of estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone receptors causes feedback inhibition of FSH and LH. Then there is an LH surge, which causes the stimulation of prolactin secretion. And there's increase in transferrin proteins and sex hormone binding globulins that causes an increase in HDL and decrease in LDL. So this is a diagram. There's pulsatile release of gonadotropin releasing hormone that increases luteinizing hormone release and follicle stimulating hormone release. Luteinizing hormone causes a positive feedback effect on desmolase that causes the conversion of cholesterol to androgens, and the androgens inside the theca interna cells. And the androgens then migrate to the granulosa cells and get converted to estrogens via aromatase under the influence of follicle stimulating hormone. In pregnancy, there is a 50-fold increase in estradiol and estrone and a 1,000-fold increase in estriol, which is an indicator of fetal well-being. Estrogen receptor is expressed in the cytoplasm and they translocate to the nucleus when bound by estrogen. So they have intracytoplasmic receptors that translocate to the nucleus when bound by estrogen. I'd like to search about this fact. Role of estrogen in SHBG and LDL, HDL levels. It increases SHBH because estrogen significantly increases SHBH levels, particularly when administered orally, which is crucial for understanding the relationship between estrogen and SHBG for hormone balance and metabolic health. It increases the hormone binding globulin because increased concentration requires increased protein to bind it, increased receptors to bind it. I think that's the etiology behind it. Negative correlation with LDL, they are not related to total cholesterol. This is not a good answer. It suppresses hepatic lipase activity, which helps maintain lower levels of LDL cholesterol and tag while promoting higher levels of HDL cholesterol. So estrogen causes an increase in the good cholesterol and a decrease in a bad cholesterol, which is important for well-being. Next is progesterone. The source is corpus luteum, placenta, adrenal cortex, and the testes. In males, the testes, adrenal cortex in both sexes, placenta in the female, and corpus luteum in the female as well. A function is stimulation of endometrial glandular secretions and spiral artery development. Maintenance of pregnancy and decreased myometrial excitability. Estrogen was increasing the myometrial excitability and progesterone is decreasing the myometrial excitability. Production of thick cervical mucus, which inhibits sperm entry to uterus, increase in body temperature, inhibition of gonadotropin's luteinizing hormone and FSH, so did estrogen receptors, uterine smooth muscle relaxation, preventing the contractions, and estrogen had no role in that. Decreased estrogen receptor expression, which is opposite to estrogen, prevents endometrial hyperplasia. Does not cause endometrial hyperplasia, and this one caused estrogen caused endometrial proliferation, and progesterone prevents endometrial hyperplasia. Fall in progesterone after delivery disinhibits prolactin, and this causes lactation. Increase in progesterone is indicative of ovulation. Progesterone is progestation and prolactin is prolactation. So when there's an increase in progesterone after delivery of the baby, it um, removes the inhibitory effect on prolactin. When there's a decrease in progesterone after delivery, it decreases the inhibitory effect on prolactin, which means that a decrease in progesterone level increases the prolactin level, and this causes lactation. And an increase in progesterone is indicative of ovulation. Fall in progesterone after delivery is indicative of lactation, supportive of lactation, and an increase in progesterone in normal menstrual cycle is indicative of ovulation. To repeat the functions, it was endometrial glandular secretion stimulation, spiral artery development, which is basically endometrial for the endometrial layer, and it prevents endometrial hyperplasia. And endometrial proliferation is supported by estrogen, as we studied right there. Yes, right there. Moreover, it causes the production of thick cervical mucus, which inhibits sperm entry into the uterus, increases body temperature. It causes inhibition of gonadotropins and causes uterine spool muscle relaxation, thus preventing contractions. And it maintains pregnancy, which can also be linked to how it inhibits the sperm entry into the uterus, because during pregnancy, that shouldn't be very optimal. Tanner stages of sexual development. Tanner stage is assigned independently to genitalia, pubic hair, and breast. Example, a person can have Tanner stage 2 genitalia, Tanner stage 3 pubic hair. The first is childhood or prepubertal. The second is when pubic hair appears. This is called pubarchy, and breastbuds form, which is thalarchy. So the pubic hair and the breastbuds form in the second Tanner stage. In the third year, the pubic hair darkens and becomes curly, and the penis size or length increases in this stage, and the breasts also increase in this stage. So childhood was prepubertal. Puberty was a stage of budding or appearing, and third stage is a stage of growth or enlargement. The fourth, penis width increases, dark scrotal skin, development of glands, and raised areola. In the newer versions of first aid, I'm going to get the newer versions PDF for the next videos. In the newer versions, the fourth stage is written to be amount on amount for the breast development, and that's particularly high yield. Next, we have in the adult, the tennis stage 5, the areola are no longer raised. Next, we have the menstrual cycle, and this is the endometrium, which is the inner lining of the uterus. This is the proliferative phase or the follicular phase, and this is the secretory or the luteal phase. When there is a maturing Graafian follicle, the endometrium looks like this. During ovulation, it is fully proliferated. When there's development of corpus luteum, it is also very proliferative. And then as there's a regressing corpus luteum and menstruation, then it starts shedding. Follicular phase can vary in length. Luteal phase is 14 days. Ovulation days plus 14 days is equal to menstruation. So, however long it takes to reach this stage of ovulation, and then the next 14 days is equal to how long your menstrual cycle is going to be. Follicular growth is fastest during second week of proliferative phase. During this time, I suppose here, during the second week of proliferative phase, the follicular growth of this maturing Graafian follicle is the fastest. Estrogen stimulates endometrial proliferation, as we have just discussed, and progesterone maintains endometrium to support implantation. So a decrease in progesterone causes decreased fertility. We have also the hormone levels during correlating to the endometrial stage. Let's follow them one by one. So this is 0 to 7 days, 7 to 14 days, 14 to 21, and 21 to 28 days. Starting with the FSH is going all right in 0 to 7 days, and then it has a surge near the 14th day, as do a lot of hormones. Actually, after the 7th day, it has a dip, and then it has a surge. And this surge is led by a dip and a slight surge by the end of the cycle. Then comes luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone is following FSH, but it slightly decreases after the 7th day and goes on a very high surge to indicate ovulation or at the 14th day, and then it continues to dip. So LH has a pretty easy path to follow. It just surges during ovulation at the 14th day and then continues to dip and rise in the next cycle. Next, we have estrogen. Estrogen rises slightly after at the beginning of the menstrual cycle, and then it dips, and then it continues to increase and is the highest during ovulation or the 14th day, and then it dips, and then it increases again, and then it decreases again, and then it increases near the 21st day or the luteal phase, um, and then it decreases again. I'll have to search the um, mechanism for estrogen. And then there's progesterone, which has a pretty simple pathway. It just increases after the corpus luteum has started forming and it has started secreting progesterone, and then it dips when the corpus luteum regresses. So, about estrogen, increase in estrogen right here is responsible for the LH surge, they say. And this LH surge causes ovulation, and this ovulation causes progesterone to be secreted from the corpus luteum. And as the progesterone levels fall, there is menstruation by apoptosis of the endometrial cells. All right. So we'll have to check estrogen levels throughout menstrual cycle duration. Um, They say it begins with the follicular phase. On the first day, estrogen levels are at their lowest, contributing to period-related fatigue and discomfort. As the follicles and ovaries mature under the influence of FSH, they begin producing estrogen, primary estradiol. This increase in estrogen helps thicken the uterine lining. Rising estrogen also improves mood, energy, and cognitive function. So the basic rise we saw here caused an increase in the functioning of the body and the mood, and also caused the thickening of the endometrium. Around ovulation, it reaches its peak just before ovulation, typically around day 12 and 14 in a 28-day cycle. This surges LH and also causes thinning of the cervical mucus, facilitating sperm movement. And during luteal phase, estrogen levels initially dip but then rise again alongside progesterone, supporting the uterine lining for the potential implantation. If pregnancy does not occur, both estrogen and progesterone decline towards the end of the cycle. So it it started dipping, but then it increased right here for the potential support of implantation of the um, fetus if there is any into the endometrium, but because there's no fetus, so both progesterone and estrogen levels will drop. I get this surge now. So there are some terms such as dysmenorrhea, which is pain with menses, often associated with endometriosis. Oligomenorrhea is a greater than 35-day cycle. Oligo means many, I feel like long. What does oligo mean? Oligomenorrhea. Oligomenorrhea. Infrequent or irregular menstrual periods, a type of and it's common among women of reproductive age. Okay, so oligo means less, right? Oligo meaning um no, it's oligo versus poly. Uh okay, so short chain. All right. So oligo is short, and if your cycle is greater than 35 days, then you are going to have like 7 or 8 periods per year. So it's going to be short menstrual cycle. And polymenorrhea is a menstrual cycle that is less than 21 days, and you're going to have frequent bleeding throughout the year, and it is going to be polymenorrhea. Metorrhagia is frequent or irregular menstruation. Menorrhagia is heavy menstrual bleeding, greater than 80 milliliter blood loss, or greater than 7 days of menses. Menorrhagia is heavy irregular menstruation. So meno, and menometrorrhagia is heavy plus irregular menstruation. Cool. Next we go to oogenesis. Oogenesis can be simplified by this diagram right here. Yes. So primary oocytes begin meiosis one during fetal life. The first is an ovogonium or diploid gamete cell that is 2N and 2C. The N here is for um, ploidy and the C is for number of chromatids. So it has two chromatids and it is diploid. This 46 single cell chromosome, which is known as an ovogonium. And primary oocytes begin meiosis during fetal life and complete meiosis one prior to ovulation. I think we'll just go through the diagram first. So it divides into a primary oocyte by meiosis, and it is arrested in this primary oocyte is arrested in prophase 1 until ovulation. So the primary oocyte is diploid and contains four chromatids because the oocyte contains chromatids and the ovonium contains chromosomes. That's the main difference between them. And it is arrested in prophase 1 until ovulation. After ovulation, there is the secondary oocyte, which is now haploid, 1N, and two chromatids because there is a division. There is 23 sister chromatids from one division, and the other division is a polar body that can degenerate and give rise to two polar bodies. And then the 23 sister chromatids undergo meiosis 2, I suppose, this secondary oocyte, and forms the ovum. Now, the interesting thing is that it is also arrested in metaphase 2 until fertilization. When the egg is fertilized, it completes meiosis 2 and forms an ovum. And the rest are polar bodies that is just degenerated, right? Meiosis 2. So meiosis 1 of primary oocyte is stuck in prophase 1, and meiosis 2 of secondary oocyte is stuck in metaphase 2. And the 46 single chromosome phase is just the interphase for meiosis. The conversion of ovum to oocyte is interphase. The conversion of oocyte to secondary primary oocyte to secondary oocyte is the stuck in prophase 1, and the conversion of secondary oocyte to ovum is stuck in metaphase 2 because it is meiosis part 2. And there is meiosis part 1 and then there's part 2. Primary oocytes begin meiosis 1 during fetal life and complete meiosis 1 just prior to ovulation. Meiosis 1 is arrested in prophase 1 for years until ovulation. Meiosis 2 is arrested in metaphase 2 until fertilization. And if fertilization does not occur within 1 day, the secondary oocyte degenerates, an egg met a sperm. So metaphase is where the meiosis 2 is stuck for secondary oocytes. Then there's ovulation. There's an increase in estrogen, increase in gonadotropin releasing hormone receptors on the anterior pituitary. Estrogen surge then stimulates luteinizing hormone release. There's ovulation, which is the rupture of follicle, and increase in temperature if progesterone is induced, because progesterone is mainly responsible for increase in temperature during ovulation. Mittelschmerz is the transient mid-cycle ovulatory pain. There is a clinical correlate here. A transient mid-cycle ovulatory pain classically associated with peritoneal irritation. Example, follicular swelling or rupture, fallopian tube contraction can mimic appendicitis. And it is Mittelschmerz is basically a false pain that can be indicative of menstruation to women who do not remember their cyclic dates, but it's not going to cause a menstrual bleeding because it is because of peritoneal irritation due to follicular rupture or fallopian tube contraction. Then comes pregnancy. Fertilization most commonly occurs in upper end of fallopian tube, which is also known as the ampulla, and it occurs within 1 day of ovulation. Implantation within the wall of uterus occurs 6 days after fertilization, and that stage is called blastocyst. Sensitive trophoblasts secrete human chorionic gonadotropin, which is detectable in blood 1 week after conception, and on home test in urine 2 weeks after conception. So home test 2 weeks in the urine and 1 week in the blood. There's a little graph here that I'd like to see, if we can. Yeah. Wait. Wait, my cursor go. Oh, there's a glitch. Yeah, there we are. So these are hormone levels during the weeks of pregnancy. Beta HCG is the first to rise, and then it has a fall in weeks 20 to 30, and then it has a rise again in 30th week. Estriol, which is a form of estrogen, is on a continuous rise during um, the pregnancy. Progesterone dips slightly during the 20th week, and then it is on an increase, and prolactin continues to increase as well. I'd like to see the HCG levels throughout pregnancy and why there was a dip. Um, Levels begin to rise after conception, confirming pregnancy in 1 to 2 weeks, and they double and they peak around 10th week, and they gradually decline after peaking, stabilizing between 10,000 to 30,000 milli international units per ml. Mm, At 20 weeks, I want to know what happens. Oh, there's a continuous glitch. I'm so sorry for it. But yeah. Mm, Okay, so this is just like there's a glitch again. So this is just like this dip and then the increase and then the stability is just for like achieving a stable level of HCG as far as I understand for now. Um, then we have lactation. After labor, the decrease in progesterone and estrogen disinhibits lactation. Okay, so after labor, the decrease in progesterone and estrogen disinhibits lactation, which is basically that it causes lactation, the decrease in estrogen and progesterone. Suckling is required to maintain milk production since increased nerve stimulation causes increased oxytocin and prolactin, in which prolactin induces and maintains lactation and decreases reproductive functions. And oxytocin assists in milk letdown, also promotes uterine contractions. So this one is a positive feedback reflex in which oxytocin causes uterine contractions and milk letdown. Breast milk is the ideal nutrition for infants less than 6 months old, contains maternal immunoglobulins, which confer passive immunity, um, mostly IgA, macrophages, lymphocytes. Breast milk reduces infant infections and is associated with decreased risk of child to develop asthma, allergies, diabetes mellitus, and obesity. Exclusively breastfed infants require vitamin D supplementation because it does not contain vitamin D, so they require vitamin D supplementation. Breastfeeding decreases maternal risk of breast and ovarian cancer and facilitates mother-child bonding. So HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. The source is syncytial trophoblast of placenta. Syncytial trophoblast was the outer layer of placenta that was immune to attack complexes because it lacked MHC as far as I remember, MHC1 receptors. The function is that it maintains corpus luteums and thus progesterone for first 8 to 10 weeks of pregnancy by acting like luteinizing hormone. Otherwise, no luteal cell stimulation and there's abortion. After 8 to 10 weeks, placenta synthesizes its own estriol and progesterone and corpus luteum degenerates. It is used to detect pregnancy because it appears early in urine, as early as 2 weeks, as we just studied. And it has identical alpha subunits as luteinizing hormone, FSH, TSH. Beta subunit is unique. Pregnancy tests detect beta subunit. Um, um, Beta subunit is unique because pregnancy tests detect beta subunit. This one is important. And HCG is increased. This is a really highly needed point that HCG is increased in, I'd like to highlight it red. It is increased in multiple gestations, hyatidiform moles, choriocarcinomas, and Down syndrome. So hyatidiform moles are let's see what they are. Yeah. The cystic swelling of chorionic villi and proliferation of chronic epithelium. Only the trophoblast, which are associated with fecal uterine cysts, hyperemesis gravidum, which is bleeding, and hypothyroidism. And their treatment is dilatation and curettage and methotrexate, monitor beta HCG. So these moles, these cystic swellings of chorionic villi and proliferation of chorionic epithelium, they are releasing beta HCG, and thus beta HCG gets high in hydatidform moles, and it also gets high in multiple gestations and choriocarcinomas. Choriocarcinomas are basically the carcinomas of the chorionic layer of the placenta. Chorio um, carcinomas. Yes, the trophoblast cells, which are involved in the placenta, they give rise to rare cancers known as choriocarcinomas, and Down syndrome and multiple gestations can also cause an increase in HCG. HCG decreases in ectopic or failing pregnancy, Edwards syndrome, and Patau syndrome, which are basically chromosomal um, syndromes 13 and 18, I suppose. It causes a decrease in HCG. Menopause is a decrease in estrogen production due to age-linked decline in number of ovarian follicles. Average age at onset is 51 years, earlier in smokers, usually preceded by 4 to 5 years of abnormal menstrual cycles. The source of estrogen or estrone after menopause becomes peripheral conversion of androgens, and because of increased androgens post-menopause, there is hirsutism. There's increase in FSH, and it is specific for menopause, loss of negative feedback of FSH due to decreased estrogen. So estrogen normally causes a decrease in FSH, but because there's no estrogen to cause a decrease, there is an increase in FSH. Hormonal changes are that there is a decrease in estrogen, increase in FSH, increase in LH, but there's no surge, and there is increase in gonadotropin releasing hormone. It causes HAVICs, which are hot flashes, atrophy of the vagina, osteoporosis, coronary artery disease, and sleep disturbances. Menopause before age 40 can indicate premature ovarian failure. This is also particularly high yield, that menopause before age 40 can indicate premature ovarian failure. Next is spermatogenesis. How much of it is left? Yes, just a single page. So spermatogenesis is spermatogonium, which is diploid, just like oogonium, um, has to cross the blood testes barrier, which we just discussed in our anatomy video, which has tight junctions, and it goes through replication in the interphase and gets converted into primary spermatocyte, which is diploid, but it has 2N and 4Cs because of chromatids instead of chromosome. And then it undergoes meiosis 1, in which it forms secondary spermatocytes. There's no faulting as in the case of oogenesis. And there are 23 sister chromatids each, and these are converted by meiosis 2 into spermatids, which are haploid, and they are then converted by spermiogenesis into mature spermatozoon, which is haploid as well. But it has an acrosome, which is this part, a head below the acrosome, a nucleus in there, a neck below the head and acrosome, a middle piece, and a tail. So impaired tail mobility can lead to infertility seen in ciliary dyskinesia and Carter-Hiner syndrome. Now let's read it. Spermatogenesis begins at puberty with spermatogonia. Full development takes 2 months, occurs in seminal tubules, produce spermatids that undergo spermiogenesis, loss of cytoplasmic contents, gain of acrosomal cap to form mature spermatozoa. Gonium is going to be sperm, zoon is zooming to egg. All right. And that was a pretty short description. I think I really need to get the newer version of first aid. Androgens are testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, and androstenedione. Their source is DHT and testosterone in the testis. Androstenedione is produced from the adrenal gland. So yeah, testosterone and DHT is formed in the testis and androstenedione in the adrenal. Potency is such that dihydrotestosterone DHT has greater potency than testosterone, and that has greater potency than androstenedione. Function is differentiation of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles, and genitalia, except the prostate. The prostate was, if we go back to the embryologic origin, the prostate was, okay, let's go to that later. It causes a growth spurt in children in which penis, seminal vesicles, sperm, muscle, and nerve disease increase. It causes a deepening of voice, closing of epiphyseal plates via estrogen converted from testosterone, and it causes libido as well. DHT is the in early stages it causes differentiation of penis, scrotum, and prostate, and in late stages it causes prostate growth, balding, sebaceous gland activity. So yeah, testosterone does not cause the differentiation of prostate because DHT causes it. It causes early differentiation of penis, scrotum, and prostate, and in late stages of growth, it causes prostate growth, balding, and sebaceous gland activity. Testosterone is converted by 5-alpha reductase to dihydro testosterone, which is inhibited by finasteride. 5-alpha reductase is inhibited by finasteride. This is particularly clinically important. In the male, androgens are converted to estrogens by cytochrome P450 aromatase, primarily in adipose tissue and testes. Aromatase is the key enzyme in conversion of androgens to estrogen. Exogenous testosterone causes inhibition of hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, which decreases intratesticular testosterone and decreases testicular size and causes azoospermia. So this is an important clinical correlation. If a person is given exogenous testosterone, it causes inhibition of their hypothalamic gonadal axis, and that causes a decrease in intratesticular testosterone, and the testicular size decreases, and this causes azoospermia or decreased sperm production. Let's search azoospermia. It is a condition in which there are no sperm in the ejaculate, which can be significant barrier to achieving natural contraception. What's important is that aromatase is the key enzyme in conversion of androgens to estrogen, and androgens are converted to estrogen by cytochrome P450 aromatase, primarily in the adipose tissue and the testes. These are important. Here comes an end to the reproductive physiology. We will now continue with reproductive pathology.